Howdy, this is Eternal Daughter, and I'm your host, Master Goffrin. Once again, sorry for the delay. Last time we were penetrating deep into Dungaga City in search of the God of Machines. After a brutal slog of brutality, we found ourselves a save point and took a break before the boss. Since I never got hit by one, here's me getting hit by a Deedle. 4 delicious damage points, This corridor is currently blocked by garbage cubes, however if we listen, there's definitely something going on down here, so we need to look around for another way through. However, it wasn't this way, so we're going to have to flounder around back in this room trying to find a way through. Thinking about it, there's a massive combination of different enemies in these rooms, possibly the most of any area in the game, so I don't think there are any grunts on this particular map chunk, so it's probably the first big tile of this area that has the most, at about 7 different mob types. There's only going to be one other place in the game to give it a run for its money in terms of variety, and we've yet to see that particular locale. Now, once this war machine is done kicking my ass, I'm going to move up a little bit back up to the top and talk about why it's so easy to miss this save point. That large first vertical scrolling area kind of makes you terrified of falling downwards, and the sheer brutality of the mobs in this area pretty much says, oh, you want to look around? Sure, I think there's a really nice place right back at the beginning that you should check out. On top of that, as soon as you enter this wide open area, you see this shaft. It's interesting and relatively safe looking, and you'll probably take that bait. Anyway, here's some moonwalking. It's a bug associated with wall jumping, where the game gets confused about overriding your movement. Sadly, it's not useful for anything though. Now, onwards to the boss. The only name I have for this chap is Garbage Mouth. I'm not sure if that's the official name or not, but my gut says you can attribute that one to Alan Chen, who wrote the only comprehensive walkthrough I've ever seen for Eternal Daughter. It's a pretty reasonable name, as we'll see once enough of these blocks fall out of the sky. Eventually, he'll reach his long neck down and eat a few cubes of garbage. Then, he'll raise his head up a little, spit a couple of lumps of garbage in your general direction, which are quite easy to dodge, then raise it up even higher, spit 3 globs down and a spread below him, move his head first to the left and then to the right, then raise it up yet higher and repeat the sequence, although he only bobs his head down if there's garbage cubes to eat. Your only real opportunity to hear him is when he's chomping on some rubbish, as his head is his only weak point. He always shoots from the right side of the screen first, so I messed up here by staying on this side of him when I should have jumped over and get smacked by a garbage block for my trouble. Then, as I try to recover, I get hit by another garbage block. Additionally, after he shoots his tri-blob garbage shot, and when he moves his head from side to side, you have another opportunity to get a few hits in. The danger here is that you'll hardly only tell that there's a block of rubbish falling. Speaking of the blocks, while you can destroy them, I have no idea why you would. If there's no blocks to eat, Garbage Mouth just hangs around above out of double jump range, and even if he does eat 2 blocks, he doesn't get a more powerful attack out of it or anything. All you really make is a pit to fall into. I mentioned that there was a tell for when a garbage block is falling. I'm not sure how well this will come across in the final videos, especially on YouTube, but thin black shadows appear on top of the dark grey garbage blocks, which indicates that a block is falling. They don't do anything if they fall on his head, and when they land, they always destroy a block already in that position, though they only fall in the centre 6 columns. Obviously though, if a block lands on you, it hurts, as do his garbage blobs, both coming in at 3 damage. While this makes this fight sound easy by comparison to some of the others, there's very few opportunities to reasonably damage him, and while everything on its own is easy to dodge, sometimes his head, the blocks and the garbage blobs will form a trifecta to pin you in. On top of the intended difficulty, times have changed. If you're stuck playing in a small window, or with a not especially good LCD display, you probably won't even be able to see the shadows at all, or at least not in time to get out of the way, and the blocks will eventually chip you to death if you can't see them coming. Bear in mind that this boss fight has been going for 2 minutes already, and it's not over yet. The only thing I can think to add to all of that is that maybe they wanted this boss fight to be more than it was, but abandoned that due to technological concerns. Perhaps the room was supposed to slowly fill with blocks, or maybe Garbage Mouth might have used his hands at all ever. He kind of is pretty easy overall, just enduring, and I think the only thing to really note about him is that, to date, he's physically the largest boss we've fought. Other than that though, enjoy the next few moments of me not dying, and as an aside, when he does die, you can totally keep on hitting him, so look forward to that. Our reward for defeating Garbage Mouth is another attack upgrade. And that makes 7. Oh yeah, Lightning Bolts of Death. This one is going to give us both some extra punch and some extra range. This gives us a much better chance against the Junkers and the Deedles and, well, pretty much everything. Here we have a long corridor filled with robots. They all seem to be fairly inactive. Traditionally you might expect some of them to come alive and try to kill us, but not this time. And here is Zod, god of all machines. His gift will awaken dormant machinery, which is oddly specific. There's actually a hidden area here in Big Zed's Hizzle, just above us through this narrow gap in the ceiling. With a hop, skip and a wall jump, you can handily get up to this massive vertical shaft. You can get up the sides with the Mojang, but I don't have enough on me right now, so I'll have to come back later. And well, disappointingly, Zod skulked off when I went off screen, so he's no longer here, to kneel before or otherwise. And look, they're alive. Turns out they're happy robots. Look at how happy they are. Anyway, fun and games over. It's now time to try and get out of here. Hopefully we can get out via that hallway that was blocked before. The new attack upgrade has shaved a hit off of the difficult enemies in this area. Now the Deedles go down in 3 and the Junkers in 4. While this is a long way from making the area trivial, it's certainly a big help. And it's also certainly a good reason to get that upgrade in the caves with that jump glitch. Due to this attack upgrade, and the fact that falling down is easier than jumping, I'm not too worried that I have next to no secondary ammo, since I'll be able to dodge most of the Junkers on the way out, and those I can't, I can just outrange now. I'm going to completely flub trying to hit this Deedle with any secondary weapons. When you have to throw one out close to the ground, it can be really very hard to get the timing right, so I gave up and let it live. If you have a decent amount of health, it's probably safest to do this and just leap down the gap between the platforms. While nearly 5 enemies await you at the bottom, all the ones that are an immediate threat are all relatively old ones, which go down easy. If you can get past that, a quick snake around past this Junker lets you leap down another gap in the platforms to the right. There you go, exit maneuver completed. Much like the last boon we got from one of the gods, this one isn't going to directly help us actually fight anything, but it has given us access to new places. The first is just below the entrance to the nightmare area of the city. Of course, there was a long dormant Jack living underneath this garbage block, and now we're free to get this life upgrade. It must have been one of those really old garbage blocks, since we could only destroy the fresh ones in the Garbage Mouth fight. Speaking of, it occurs to me that Zod lives behind a rubbish heap. While at first glance this seems like a kind of crappy place for your god to live, I guess it's actually a pretty appropriate place to find the god of machines. You perhaps remember back in episode, I'm gonna say 4, that there was an important looking contraption in the lower right of this area. With our new ability to reinvigorate old machines, we can navigate it now too. You really want to save your game first though. That was a little more complicated than it needed to be. This area is another large vertical room. There's a few Deedles around, but you can just about ignore them on the way down here. There's also a lot of bounce trampolines which should pass on the hint that we're going to be coming back up here at some point. At the very bottom there's a large way through to the left. Which contains delicious treasure. This particular item is probably the most important thing in the game that I'm not sure you actually need to collect. The Dungaga charge helm shifts some serious paradigms. Now instead of useless forward flips that look cool, we get burning forward flips of death that look cool. However, the single most important thing is invincibility frames. With this upgrade you actually, finally, have something to protect yourself with. It really works wonders. While it doesn't do as much damage as your normal attack, it is much safer, and lets you attack in any direction you happen to be moving. Right about here I got curious as to how much damage touching a Junker actually does, but I touched him mid-attack, so it might not be 5. Then I remembered I still had to get out of here, and thought wise was trying again. Since the charge helm is the only thing down here, now it's time to leave Dungaga City. First though, we've got to navigate through this massive vertical room. There's bounce pads everywhere, but really you're better off not using them at all, since most of the time they just make things harder. Now if any of the doodles decide to try to push us off one of the platforms, we can just head charge through them. You get enough invincibility after the charge, jump again and continue charging too, so it's actually kind of broken. I'm going to be a bit crap with it for a while though, since it takes a little getting used to. It really would have been quite nice if we could have gotten it before the ordeal we just went through. And we're back in the desert. The only other machine we've seen is the one in that side cave I showed last video, so it's off there next. First though, I have this odd feeling that our familiar is about to grow up. How adorable! So now he's fat, but still a little cute. I don't think any real benefit comes from this stage of growth, and in order to get this far he needs to eat like 50 fruits maybe. And since we can turn machines on now... Oh, how unfortunate. Oh, and look where we are, another life upgrade in the mix as well. Sadly, I know that none of our countless upgrades can yet defeat this now impenetrable metal fortress, though our familiar has no trouble. Right now our familiar isn't shipping out much flaming death, by comparison our normal attack would one-shot this trooper. So, with us still unable to return to Mia's village and spoiler roadblocks in place in Blue Mountain, the next god we'll be calling on is Chalzar, whom we know lives deep underground with the Grodol. So next episode will be Bragan the Sacred Habdol. It's been a while since we've checked in with the Grodol, hopefully they're all okay. Before I sign off though, a couple of bugs cropped up during recording. First was this little game breaker. I died, but it's not game over. What gives? Well, when the heavy grunt died, it dropped a heart, and familiars like to pick up power-ups. Mere moments after I died, my familiar collected said power-up. You can even see on the HUD that I have 2 hit points, so I'm not dead after all, except for how I am. Finally though, I mentioned last time that sometimes the Junkers lunged forwards, and this one shows that. Oh, and if you do get that first bug, just hit F2 to restart the game.